Hi guys, hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna continue crocheting that, cover for my husband, as we talked about making a cover for his keyboard. It's piano keyboard, and it's not very long in width, but probably gonna do 5 of these, and then I'm gonna turn into like the middle. It's gonna be kind of red, and then I'm gonna make it back to this color. I didn't really crochet as much from previous video. It's because I have a mild ADHD. Sometimes I can't concentrate on the same thing for the longest time, so I try to do projects that don't require so much, repetitive. And I do like repetitive for the videos because I can just do that and talk. But for like a blanket, I've never made a blanket in my life. I've started blankets, but it just never worked out. It's because I cannot, focus so much on it, and I have so many unfinished projects you guys don't even know. But I'm hoping to finish this one because I already promised my husband that this project will be finished, and hopefully soon. So we'll see. Right now I'm just going with the other color, the black color, on top of the gray color. And if you watch the video in the description, it will explain more what to do there. But it's pretty much you grab the middle here, and then you do the double crochet in that middle between shells. And yeah, that's what we're gonna be doing today. This case happened in Cheshire, Connecticut. It's one that's very unbelievable. I cannot fathom, I cannot believe that this happened. I know I say that about most cases that I do, but usually I try to find cases that have impact on me, and this one really did. I actually didn't realize, but I watched 2 different videos about this in particular case, and I was like, wait a minute, I've watched this case already, so maybe that was a sign for me to research some more about this case and find out and do a video about it too. I'm not sure if many people are familiar with this case. I actually have never heard about it before this, and there's so many weird circumstances. It could have went another way and nobody would have been hurt, but because of 2 very disturbed individuals, this case became a multiple murder case. So let's start from the beginning. This case happened in Cheshire, Connecticut. And actually, if you look up this town of Cheshire, Connecticut on a search engine, the first thing that will pop up is this horrific murder. So you can say that this is one of the biggest things that happened in this small town of 28,000 people. And it's actually considered one of the shocking and the most gruesome murders of Connecticut. Cheshire is considered a wealthy residential and suburban part of Connecticut. And it's actually considered one of the best places to live in Connecticut. So now we are in the middle now, and we're gonna go in that middle stitch between the stitches to get this pretty blend in with the yarn. And our story starts with the Petit Family. Petit Family was a very close-knit family who seemed to have it all. William Petit Jr. was born on September 25th, 1956 in Southington, Connecticut. And I've noticed that you guys commented that I was saying that it's wrong what I was saying is frogging means when you undo the project, which is right. I don't know why I said frogging, which I didn't even know the meaning of that myself, but I guess I meant like free-handed it, so I just wasn't even looking at the pattern. And thank you for letting me know what frogging actually is, because I see it in different crochet communities that I am a member of in Facebook and stuff like that, and I just thought it meant something else for some reason, so thank you. And William grew up mostly in Plainville, Connecticut, to a pretty affluent family. His father owned a general store, but he was also a member of the Republican State Central Committee. His father was also the town council. I could not find much information about his mother, but they were a pretty wealthy family. That's what I gathered. After graduating high school, and he just went to regular public high school, he went on to attend the prestigious Ivy League Dartmouth College. And then he later got his medical degree from the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine. And then he followed that up with the fellowship in endocrinology, and this is a study of hormones, of glands and organs. He did this fellowship at Yale University, so it seemed that his life was turning out pretty good now. He wasn't even 30 and he was already, accomplishing so much. William met his future wife, Jennifer Hawk, at the same hospital where he was doing a residency there. It was on 3rd year of residency, and she was a pediatric nurse. A few years later, William did become an endocrinologist, and that's a doctor who treats hormone-related conditions. So William and Jennifer ended up dating for a few years, and in April 13th of 1985, they got married. I messed up over here because I was doing double crochet instead of single crochet. You can mess that up easily because they're kind of similar, so I think I didn't go too far though with that. So I guess I did frogged just now. I guess that's what I meant. And they ended up having 2 kids. Their first daughter, Haley, was born on October 15th, 1989, and their second daughter was born on November 17th, 1995. Haley was very athletic, and one of her dreams for the future was to become a doctor, just like her dad. One of the main reasons why she wanted to work in the medical field was because when Haley was only 9 years old, her mother Jennifer was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. This is when Haley decided that she wants to help people like her mom with this unfortunate disease. She was so passionate about it, in fact, that she began to raise funds for different charities fundraising non-profit called Haley's Hope. In 2007, Haley just graduated high school and she just got accepted to Dartmouth College, which is where her dad went. And she was planning to go there that, I think, summer in August or September when the school starts. And younger sister Michaela was gonna take over the fundraiser that Haley created, and she was going to rename it to Michaela's Miracle. Michaela's most favorite passion was cooking. She loved to cook for the whole family. Actually, she would cook often for dinners, experiment with different dishes for supper for the whole family. And the family really admired her cooking. They loved that she was so passionate about it, and it was always delicious. So on July 22nd, 2007, 11-year-old Michaela and her 48-year-old mother, Jennifer, went to a grocery store to pick up some things for something that Michaela planned to cook that evening for the whole family. The store that they went to was called Stop and Shop. It was not too far from their house. While Michaela and Jennifer were picking out ingredients at the store, Bill, or William, was playing golf with his friends. It was just a usual day. I think it was the weekend, so everyone was doing their own thing. Haley was actually just relaxing at home because she had a really long day at the beach the day before this, and she just wanted to sleep in. Jennifer and Michaela were actually planning to go to the beach after this grocery store run, and they did, and they asked Haley to go with them, but Haley refused. She was like, I'm just too tired. I spent so much time in the sun before and just not feeling it, so she stayed home. So when everyone got home, Michaela made pasta and bruschetta, like a fancy dish, to have with the whole family. At around 7 p.m., the whole family sat down to have some dinner. After that, went to watch TV, and eventually everyone went upstairs to sleep except William. William just fell asleep on the couch and decided to stay there for the whole night, which often happened. They didn't wake him up and just went upstairs. Jennifer went to her and William's room, but because William wasn't sleeping in the room, Michaela decided to sleep with her mom that day, so she went and was in the bed with her mom, while Haley fell asleep in her own room. What the family didn't know is when Jennifer and Michaela were walking inside that grocery store, they were already being watched by someone, and it was a 26-year-old man named Joshua Komisarjevsky. He actually was following them the whole day, the whole time throughout the store, and outside of the store, he followed them to the car. And meanwhile, while he was following, he was texting his friend Steven with a plan. As he noticed that the car that Jennifer was driving was extremely expensive, they looked like from a wealthy family, both of them, so he decided to follow them to their house to see where they live. And as they unloaded their bags of groceries, he just sat there a little bit further from the house and watched them. So who is Joshua Komisarjevsky? So Joshua was just released from prison not too long before that, like a few months before this day. And he was supposed to serve 9 years in prison for burglaries, but because he was doing so good in prison, they let him out only after 5 years. Joshua was born on August 10th of 1980 to a 16-year-old mother. And that side of the family had a lot of addiction issues and mental illness history. But Joshua was put up for adoption after only 2 weeks after being born. born. He was adopted by a really nice family. Everything was going good until when he was maybe like 8 or 9 years old. The family was really nice to the point that they would just often foster random kids at their house from foster homes. And these random kids would sometimes be older than Joshua. One random kid sexually assaulted him when he was really young, about 8 or 9 years old. And I feel like this played a big role for the future of Joshua, unfortunately. Eventually, Joshua refused to get any normal jobs and he became a career criminal. He was just in and out of prison constantly. In 2006, Joshua met a 42-year-old Stephen Hayes, who was also fresh out of prison at this time. They were both released to the same halfway house after prison, and this is where they became best friends pretty much. And they decided to make plans to work together. At this point, Joshua was a meth addict, and Stephen was recovering crack addict or cocaine addict. Stephen's siblings would later say that when they were younger, Stephen would harm and injure his siblings, and then when asked by the parents, he would manipulate the parents to let them think that he was actually the victim in this. Now, Joshua and Stephen didn't really plan to go back to the life of crime right away. They had plans to maybe start a business together, but it didn't work for them. They needed money right away. Both men were not in good situations at this point because they just got out of prison, and Joshua had a daughter that he just took custody of. He didn't really care about the daughter, as it seemed. He just left her with his grandparents most of the time. But the mom of the daughter was in and out of rehab. She was also an addict. So it was actually better for the daughter to grow up with Joshua and his parents, where he lived as well. And having just got out of prison, Stephen Hayes was living with his mother at 42 years old, or 43 at this point. He was using her car, and his mom obviously did not like that. She was asking him when he's gonna find a job and move out pretty much every day. By the way, Joshua's daughter was 5 years old, and he had her before he went to prison. So by the time he got to prison, he never spent time with her pretty much. Now she was already 5 years old. Stephen also had an older daughter, I'm not sure how old she was, and he visited her sometimes. She lived with the mom, and the daughter said that he was like the nicest dad. She never saw anything weird about him. He would always get her whatever she wanted. He was just a perfect dad. Joshua had an 18-year-old girlfriend named Caroline, who looked very young, allegedly. She looked even younger than 18. People said that she looked like 14, 15 years old. And he was dating this girl. Her parents even said that because he was dating their daughter, it seemed like he has pedophile tendencies because she looks so young and she's only 18. He was almost 10 years older than her. They did not have proof of this relationship at all. Joshua's dream was to live in a wealthy neighborhood, just like the one which the Petit family lived in. Nice and cozy neighborhood. Huge houses. was actually the main mastermind for this, because Stephen never burglarized a house before in his life. He always went for cars. He knew how to get into cars, but houses was not his specialty. So Joshua decided to show Stephen how easy it is to get in and out of the house and steal a bunch of stuff. No one will be noticing even that they're there. And he picked a random house to show this to Stephen. They went to this random house. Stephen was outside the whole time, in the car I think. And Joshua just snuck into this house. No one saw him, of course. At this point he burglarized hundreds of houses before. He snuck back out with a bunch of, valuables. And Stephen was in shock. He was so excited. He was like, wow, I didn't know it was so easy to do this. So starting at around 7:45 p.m., Stephen texted Joshua asking when they will be doing this, because he is so eager to start and he wants to have a margarita after this. Joshua, however, did not respond. So then Stephen texted Joshua about an hour later again, asking, so when are we gonna start? Or something like, are we still on? And Joshua said just a word, yes. And Stephen responded with soon. This is when Joshua at 8:51 p.m. responded to Stephen, putting the kid to bed, hold your horses. Stephen then responds with, the horses want to get loose. So the plan was initially to rob the house, bring the family outside, tie them up, put them in a car, drive the car somewhere far away, and then burn the house down so no one gets hurt and they get a bunch of expensive stuff and hopefully cash too. And at 3 in the morning, both Joshua and Stephen were outside of the Petit family house. Joshua found a baseball bat laying around outside of their house, and it was actually a baseball bat from the great-grandpa of William, I think. Joshua ended up taking this baseball bat with him just in case. It was actually very easy to get inside the house because the basement door was unlocked. As soon as Joshua got in, he discovered William fast asleep on the couch. And when he saw that, he just stood there and watched him asleep. How creepy is that? In the darkness. That's like what nightmares are made of. You wake up and there's somebody staring at you in a dark figure. Apparently Joshua said that he did this often on his home invasions. After stealing a bunch of stuff, he would just stop and go to the occupants' bedrooms and just stand there and watch them sleep. And imagine how their life must be like. Yes, that's just extremely creepy, I think. But this time was different because their plan was actually to get in contact with the family and get them all tied up, as you remember. And as Joshua stood there, the friend Stephen came by and he said, Joshua tied his legs. They didn't know what to do with him. He was still alive. And then they went upstairs. And when they went upstairs, they found Jennifer and Michaela in the room together. So what they did was they tied Jennifer, her ankles, to the bedpool. And then they dragged Michaela to her room and then did the same to her. And they also put pillowcases on their heads so they don't know what's going on. They can't see anything. They can't see what they look like, anything like that, because they weren't planning to kill them. They did the same thing to Haley. So they went to her room, tied up her hands, her arms, her ankles, and tied her arms to the pole on the bed. This whole time Joshua kept reassuring them that nothing will happen, that they are just gonna leave and not touch them at all. Now they went to get William, who was at this point in and out of consciousness all the time. He didn't know what's going on. So Joshua and Stephen dragged William. William was a big guy, so they had to have two people to drag him there, to put him in the basement, and they tied his hands, his ankles, and tied him to a pole there, and also put a pillowcase on his head. And then they proceeded to ransack the whole house, taking anything valuable. They took the wallets of both William and Jennifer, which didn't have much cash in them, and then they just continued looking for more valuables. They even ended up taking change, just like random pennies and quarters from, this jar of change that they had. How petty can you get? As they were going through family stuff, Joshua finds a bank book for Bank of America that showed that they have $36,000 in this bank. And they were pretty much like jackpot. So now their plan suddenly changed. They not only wanted to leave with stuff that they found in the house, which wasn't much apparently, but now they wanted to get this money from the bank as well. And they wanted to wait for the bank to open. At this point it was about 4 in the morning, so it was quite some time still for the bank to open up. For some reason though, they wanted only $15,000 for one of the family members to go with them and withdraw this money. And not sure why they didn't take the whole $36,000 if they are going for it anyway. Might as well do the whole amount, but maybe they wanted to be less suspicious. I don't know. Just I have a lot of questions about this weird amount that they decided to take out instead of the full amount. So at this point it was decided that Jennifer, who was still conscious, who was, not beaten up or anything, she was gonna go with them to the bank to withdraw this money, while Joshua stays with the girls and watches over them, and William as well. So Stephen was gonna go to the bank with Jennifer. However, it was still hours until the banks would open up, so they just had to sit and wait. And they sit around and waited, watched some TV probably. I don't know what they were doing there this whole time for so many hours. So a few hours passed, and at this point it was around like 5 or 6 in the morning. Stephen decides to take one of the family's cars to a gas station. He goes to a gas station, fills up 2 plastic containers with gasoline, and each plastic container was $10 worth of gasoline, so it was $20 that he actually used the money from the family wallet or something that he took, and he brought these 2 containers back to the house. So at this point it was about 8 or something in the morning, and it was time to take Jennifer to the bank to withdraw this $15,000. They take Jennifer to the conversation, or it was just like an awkward silence. But I'm just wondering what Stephen would be able to say to Jennifer as he's driving her to the bank, and how scary it must have been for Jennifer also. So Jennifer goes to the bank, approaches the teller, and tells the teller that she wants to withdraw $15,000. And then she quickly leans in to the teller and passes her a note. The teller then quickly looks at the note and immediately goes to a manager, gives a note to the manager, and comes back to talk to Jennifer. At this point, they weren't sure if this was a scam or what's going on, but after reading the note, manager immediately called the police. In the note, Jennifer pretty much said that two men are holding her and her family hostage in their own house and demanding money. So as Jennifer was still talking with the teller, manager called the dispatch and was talking to the operator as Jennifer was still standing with the teller talking to her. And Jennifer said that, if you don't believe me, here's a picture of my girls. She took out a picture of her daughters from her wallet, and she said, I just want them to be safe. And so it was just really heartbreaking. There's a phone call that can be heard on some places, you can find it. And the manager pretty much says that she sees this woman right now standing with the teller, talking to her, so they should arrive as soon as possible. And then while she's talking to the 911 dispatch, she sees her leaving the doors, and she leaves, and no one saw her again after that. She just leaves the bank at this point while the manager is on the phone with police. There's actually surveillance footage that can be found online with this encounter of Jennifer inside the bank, if you're interested to see. It's really devastating, of course. Police quickly responded to the bank's reports, and after assessing the situation, they set up their vehicle near the Petit residence. And they didn't want to reveal their presence for now, they just wanted to observe the house. At this time, another 911 call came in. 62-year-old David Simchik. He called and said that he found William Petit at their house, all in blood. He said that when he saw William, he didn't even recognize him because of all the blood that was all over his face and body. As David is on the phone with dispatch, letting them know about William being at his house all in blood, and he can hardly say anything because he was just beat in the head. All of a sudden, a police SWAT member emerges from the bushes, and the police run up to them and point a gun at both William and David, the neighbor. Police kept asking him if they are the invaders because the whole scene looked suspicious at this point. They didn't know what to expect. So William, with a struggle, he kept saying that his girls and his wife are all inside the house, trapped with the captors, and they have guns. At this time, police started noticing that there was smoke that all of a sudden started appearing inside the house. And then two men sprinted. Police at this point already formed a perimeter around the house, and also the police vehicle that was right at the house began to follow this car immediately. And because there were police cars everywhere already, this man just smashed into one of the police vehicles as soon as they got out of the house, pretty much. As soon as the man crashed into this police vehicle, the other police cars approached and they ordered the man to get out of the car. And police asked the two men, Stephen has no idea. And Joshua said yes, there were 2 girls there inside the house, so they better hurry to save their lives. So police immediately went back to the house, which was now overcome with smoke. There was smoke everywhere, and fire crews already responded at this point. They were the first responders. They went inside the house, and what they saw would probably traumatize them for the rest of their lives. They found 17-year-old Haley laying on the floor, face down, most likely overcome by the smoke and flames, and it looked like she was trying to escape. So she went downstairs already, and she made it to the hallway, which was full of fire, smoke, and flames. And this is where she collapsed and lost consciousness and died. Later, the medical examiners found that her cause of death was from smoke inhalation. And it was also found, most likely, that she got burns before her death. So she was struggling, and it was a painful death because she was more burned on her front than her back, and she was found laying on her back. Because she was tied to her bed when the fire got close to her, she tried to escape in frantic panic, of course. Unfortunately, died from all the smoke inside the house. Michaela was unfortunately found still in her bed, tied to the poles, and she didn't make it out at all. She was already deceased when they found her in her bed. Her room was completely burned down. She was unable to escape, and she died from smoke inhalation. Jennifer was found in her room as well, but she was not tied up, and it was found later by medical examiners that she was actually strangled, and she did not even see the fire, most likely. She died before the fire happened. It was most likely that she was strangled after her and Stephen returned from the bank. Autopsy also showed that both Michaela and her mom Jennifer were sexually assaulted. When police began interrogating Joshua and Stephen, they both, of course, began to blame each other. So Stephen said that when they got home from the bank with Jennifer, Joshua told Stephen that he had sexually assaulted Michaela meanwhile. And Joshua told Stephen to do the same thing pretty much to Jennifer to even out the score, which Stephen did, but then he felt bad about it, and then he decided to strangle Jennifer to kill her and just left her on the floor there. According to Stephen, he said that as he was assaulting Jennifer, Joshua came in and informed him that he found out that William escaped from the basement, so they have to hurry up and leave the house right now. And this is when he strangled Jennifer, and then they left the house pretty much right away after putting it on fire. Joshua, on the other hand, told police a different story. So in his words, he said that he did assault Michaela while Jennifer and Stephen were at the bank, but he said that they both wanted it, and it was pretty much mutual, and Michaela didn't mind him assaulting her, which I think is really sick because Michaela is like 11 years old. This guy's 26, really gross, and it gives me the pedo vibes, you know what I mean, and I'm hoping that you guys feel the same. Joshua claimed that when Stephen and Jennifer got back, Joshua looked in the windows and saw there were a lot of police around the house. So this is when he got extremely worried and realized that Jennifer must have said something to the bank employees there. So he told this to Stephen, and Stephen became so agitated. He became angry at Jennifer, and this is the reason why he assaulted her and then strangled her to death. Joshua also mentioned that Stephen even assaulted her or had sex with her body after she was already dead. Second time. How disgusting and disturbing that is. However, they both denied planning any of this and said that it was pretty much a spur of the moment decision to set the house on fire. But why would again already. So they ended up pouring gasoline all over the three girls and then all over the house and then set the house on fire. Poor William was so out of it. He could hear his wife and two daughters screaming for help, but he couldn't help. He felt so helpless because he was weak. He lost a lot of blood. He couldn't move and couldn't even talk pretty much. And when he heard that they lit the house on fire, he miraculously was able to untie himself, because he's been trying to untie himself this whole time, and this was when he was able to finally do it. And he crawled out of the house from the basement and just kind of rolled over to the friend's house. He couldn't even walk. Joshua and Stephen were tried separately. So Stephen's trial began on September 13th, 2010. This was 3 years after the horrific murders. The defense tried everything they could to get a life sentence for him. The jurors were required to watch some explicit pictures, videos, just graphic stuff, and a lot of the jurors actually were needing some extensive therapy after this trial ended. So at the end of the trial, Steve Hayes was found guilty and he was sentenced to death. Joshua was tried on September 19th, 2011. So a year after Stephen's trial. He probably already knew what to expect at this point because he knows what Stephen got, you know. And at this trial, jury was made to watch this video that Joshua actually made on his phone while sexually assaulting Michaela. Can you believe this? Yes, he made a video about it. How horrifying for the jury to watch this also. So, like Stephen, Joshua Komisarjetsky was found guilty and sentenced to death. At the trial, there were some people that accused Joshua of assaulting them, and also Joshua's girlfriend's family came forward and they were also testifying that they always knew that he was a pedophile because he was dating their daughter, and their daughter looks like she's like 13 years old, and this is the girls he likes, most likely. However, in August of 2015, the state of Connecticut abolished death penalty. So because of this, both Joshua and Stephen's death sentences were converted to life sentences. It's so crazy how many loopholes are in this case, I think, and so many what ifs. What ifs. The fact that Joshua was released from prison early, he could have been in prison, none of this would have happened. The fact that Jennifer didn't wait for police to arrive and left the bank pretty much right after giving that note to the teller. She didn't know that they contacted police, but if she would have just waited a little bit longer, maybe things would be different. I think she might have made a deal with the two men, or just with Stephen, that she wasn't gonna take more than a certain amount of the time in the bank, or else he will tell Joshua to kill her daughters and her husband or something like that. Or he might have been watching and she didn't want to look like she's had time to tell the workers there that what is going on. She just wanted to, look like she just asked for money and left, not to put her family in danger. Can you imagine how scared she must have been when she was inside the bank? And I imagine that Steve was probably with a gun when he went with her, of course, with a fake gun, but she didn't know that. I also wonder how long police took to get to the house, that everyone was dead at this point, because they could have went inside, but they were gathered around the house for I don't know how long, until everyone had died at this point and smoke started coming out of the house. This is the reason why they rushed in. If the fire department arrived a little bit earlier, they might have been able to save at least one of the girls, Haley, who was already escaped. And William, I cannot believe what he went through, being the only survivor of the family and hearing the screams, not being able to son named after him as well. However, on the gravestone of Jennifer, Haley, and Michaela, he added his own name there. And he bought a space there as well, so he would be buried with the girls when he dies. How heartbreaking that is, but also I think it gives him a peace of mind that he will be together with them someday. So what do you guys think? Have you ever heard about this story before? I've never heard this story before recently. That is just a devastating story altogether. Of course. And today we finished we're just doing the top now. So now we're doing the back loop single crochet. And yeah, we're gonna do that all over. So you have to do 2 rows of the black and then 2 rows of the gray. So I'm in the second row right now. And the second row consists of just back loop only, single crochet all the way to the end. Very, very easy, except when you're doing black yarn like I've decided to do, it's kind of hard to see. So